Shahem, Shahem, Shahem. Can you hear me?
Hey,
How are you?
ciao. That's all I got to say is
That
chat.
good, huh? That great, huh?
Mm,
Let me make sure I'm pronouncing your name right. It's Shahem or Shaheen?
Shaheen.
Shaheem. Okay, let me put that down. I gotta put that in. Wait, I can
Ooh.
read it. Shit. All right, I got your Google thing over here. I have your Google form. Okay, so the show runs between 30 and 45 minutes. There is a break in between, so in the middle of it, I'll just be like, we're gonna take a quick break. The topics that you wanted to discuss was social worker discrimination, social work training slash school, and ways that we can bridge the gap. So we can cover those. And before we start, do you have any questions for me?
Wait, this is live? Is it?
Uh, no, so this is not live. So this right now is just
Oh,
me and
I
you.
was about to say, oh my God, the
It's
girls are
just
not
me and you.
prepared
Nobody's
for
here. I have to edit it down. So no, this is not live at all. I don't. Oh, I would not do this live. Sometimes people be like, I was like, oh, I can't put that in the podcast. I'm sorry. But no, I just record everything just so I can have everything recorded, and then I post it. It's available on like iHeartRadio, Spotify, um, Apple Podcasts, all those places. And let me look at the calendar. Your episode should be coming out month Thursday,
one thing
either
about
the
you.
30th or the 1st of October or the 7th of October.
Okay, lit.
Do you have any questions before we start?
Mm-mm.
No. Okay. Um, do you want them to know that you work in social work?
Mm-hmm. I'm a licensed social worker,
Okay. 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 Okay.
and I currently, at this time, am working in child welfare. But this don't go. This part can stay out of the podcast. I hate people knowing where I work, but I'm transitioning outside of that to school social work. So I'm gonna
Oh,
be a,
dope.
yeah, child welfare is a nightmare. Like,
I
and
can
I know school
only
social work isn't,
imagine.
huh?
As I can only imagine.
Horrible, horrendous.
Okay, let me start this over here. In five, four, three. We're back with another episode, y'all. Welcome to Wards of the State, where we have a lot of light to shine. Today, I am joined by a TikTok friend who I met on TikTok watching some of their amazing, amazing content about therapy, about social work, about food. We have Shaheen. Is it Shaheen? I can never say it
It's
right.
you got it right. You got it right.
I got it right. Okay. Because, I be practicing because I love to say people's names right. Not that it's difficult. I'm just really
Some
bad at
people say
names.
the most ridiculous things.
How are you? How
I
are
get
you, my
five high.
love?
I'm good. I am good. I can't complain. I'm sorry if my internet is choppy, but I'm good. I'm feeling good. You know, life is good.
That's
How you
so good.
feeling?
That's so good to hear. I'll be honest today, I'm a little overworked. I had a lot of work to do today. I'm running this one man show. And also, my TikTok got banned. So I had a loss of like almost $2,600 in the last 3 weeks. And trying to figure out how I'm going to make that money back up. So it's been kind of stressful, but I'm staying positive. So that's all I could do. Speaking of TikTok, you are a licensed therapist, and then you also do like therapy type of TikTok. I love your this content and like your new things when you started doing like therapy advice with like the cooking, when you're cooking things, because you say you also love cooking. What inspired you to do that type of content before we get into your lived experience?
So I actually have loved cooking for a very long time. My grandfather, who is a Taurus, used to have me cooking down like every weekend, almost every other day in the kitchen. he used to, throw a mean collard green on the stove and always taught me like the ways of how to do it. Like he taught me how to work the land. Like he had me in his garden, growing, picking okra, child, watermelon, you name it. Like he
Wow.
really showed me like the beauty of food from start to finish. Um, I it really it's really something that just clicked with me. And I cook for my friends a lot. I cook for family a lot. Like I'm the person who they call to come bring the mac and
You cook
cheese.
every, yep. Mm-hmm.
And
Because you fucked up the
the
macaroni and cheese.
Never. And like, I don't know, it's just like really something that I really want to do. Like, I love a lot of stuff. Like this headboard behind me. Like, I don't know if they're going to see it on the podcast, but I made this. Like, I've always had a thing for creativity, and I think creativity belongs in everything that we do. And cooking is really an art. Like, it's just an art form, in my opinion. And I think that even relationships which is the focus of therapy is really important. So I think cooking brings people together and food, cooking, it just makes sense. Creativity, art, the whole nine. So
No, I
my
love
goal is
that.
just to exist. I'm not even doing it just for anything specific, really.
No, I love it, and it inspires me to like kind of, because I do what I do, but I'm kind of getting tired of the way that giving my content. So I'm kind of thinking of like a new creative way, and I like sewing, so I'm thinking about maybe I'll go on there and do some sewing, and then talk about foster care and like teach all hoes how to make a shirt or two. Okay.
Ooh, I'm a rookie seamstress myself. I always be looking for tips. Go
Oh
ahead.
yeah. I mean, that's how my first business was a sewing company. I started making custom pet apparel, and we got like big I got like big clients like Chelsea Handler, Fortune Filmster, like LA clients. They were buying like $400 cardigans for their little dogs. So I definitely got really good at it. I really got good at it. So you just inspired me. But getting back to the topic at hand, you were in kinship care in Baltimore for about 1.5 years when you were a teenager or about teenage age. Um, I think you are the first one on the show, if I'm correct, who did kinship care. I'm almost sure. I'm trying to think of the shows I've produced and the shows I have in my pocket. I think so. I think everybody else have been either an adoptee or a foster youth, like full on foster care. How was your experience, do you think, in kinship care compared to foster care?
So um although kinship care is like something that is better, and I could say like, yeah, that's better for the kids. I could see why it would be better. I wasn't super familiar with my mother's side of the family, which is who I wound up staying with. Um, li- like, yeah, I definitely it was my grandma and my aunt. Like, so I was familiar with them, but we never really spent that much time. Like, I talked about my grandfather at the beginning, and that's my paternal grandfather. I spent most of my time in my childhood with my paternal side of the family, so it was like really being uprooted and then placed in a completely different environment with people you know that you're related to but don't know super well. Honestly, everything about that experience was like just scarring in general. I think like just from start to finish, it was very traumatic. Like I even remember to this day very vividly, like the day that the social worker came and got me and my brother, and took us to my aunt's basement. Like it was just like really, it was really not a fun time.
Oh,
Um, it really just, yeah. Reflecting back on it, I was around like what 12, 11 to 12. Like it was not a good time. Um, we always missed my mom. It was jarring. We had like all the basics we needed, but it just didn't feel, it never felt like home. We never felt truly welcomed. Honestly, like we felt like, I can't speak for my brother. I felt like a burden
yeah.
um everywhere that I went. And it was just like taking up space where you didn't belong. And yeah, it definitely
And you
took a
felt
lot
like
of
that
work.
even within your own family, because like you said, these are your real family members, because those are emotions that like foster youth go through. So the fact that you were still having those feelings it's crazy because I'm just like it does, like you said, it's not that much different than being in normal foster care. You know, when you're around people who you didn't grow up with, it's the same idea. You know, um, so how did that influence you? Like you were there for 1.5 years. Did your mother ended up getting custody back? Like how did that part of the story work, and how did that reunification work for you?
So, at some point, my mom actually started staying with my at my grandma's house with us. Like, she was going through like a nasty situation with my dad at the time,
Hmm.
and like in the midst of them getting a divorce, she had wound up moving with us in the same house, and legally they asked my like me and my brother like if we wanted to be reunified with my mom because my mom had was getting back on her feet and she finally got her own place again. And we said yeah. My sisters I'm like spilling all my family teach out. My sisters opted to stay with my grandma. So me and my brother wound up moving with my mom to like down a hill, back down a hill, which is if you're from Baltimore, you know what I'm talking about. Like back to the hood. Like it was rough. I don't think our lives were really the same like following that. It wasn't the same in like in the beginning. We were one big family, me, my siblings, and my parents. By the end of it, it was just me, my brother, and my mom. It was jarring, and plus, like the things that we experienced over that year and some change was it was really rough. Um, like specifically, my grandma was a very rigid woman. Like she had a strict set of rules that like me and my brother just were not used to or accustomed to. I remember one summer my grandma like she beat me with a comb,
Oh
like real bad.
no.
Like and yeah, and I love my grandma. So if she listening, I love you, girl. But like she wore me out with that comb. Because I don't even remember why. It was like for running out the house or something, and we made the best of it, but it just was not a it wasn't a super fun time. It really.
Now, were your sisters older than you? Is that why that was kind of like a deciding factor of why they probably stayed with your grandmother,
Yeah,
compared to going back home? Because they're like, we already, we ain't going back to the club, Stevie. Like that's what.
I'm the baby of the family actually.
Oh,
So
me too. I well of my biological family, I am the baby of the family too. Um, oh my goodness, I have so many questions. So when you okay, so you're down the hill, like you said in Baltimore, and things are rough, but you made it. You're sitting here talking to me. Um,
I still
how
got
is
some way to go.
right? How did that work between like your siblings and your brother? Like, are you close with your sisters now? Do you think being separated and not finishing up your childhood in the same household, did that have a negative or positive influence on y'all's relationship? How does that work?
Child, if you ask my older sisters about us growing up, they're gonna tell you that they raised me themselves. We always stay close, me and my siblings. Like, we've had some bumps in the road here and there, but like we are a pretty tight knit family.
That's
Like again,
awesome.
it took a very long time for us to like really get on like common ground and equal footing, but we always stuck by each other, even when we didn't want to stick by each other. And yeah, I would say that we're pretty close.
That is amazing. That's something that I wish that I could say about me and my siblings, but the system like it just tore us apart. And even as adults, my sister is passed and my other brother is in federal prison, so it's just me and my other brother now, and he's older than me. And just a couple months ago, I went home and I visited him, and we went out and had drinks. But it's still like, it's not like when we were growing up. It's just like I don't know what it is. It's just like I don't know his life. He doesn't know my life, and we don't live in the same state, or like we live thousands of miles apart. And oh no, it's just rough. It's just really rough. I hope that one day, me and my brothers can get to the point where we were when we were kiddos. But going into a topic that you want to discuss, and having experience working in the field, but then also having some experience with kinship care, social worker discrimination. Do you Can you explain that one to me? Do you think social workers are discriminated, or do you think they discriminate?
Oh no, they are very discriminatory. Like, I think even the cases that we've seen like that blew up publicly recently are very good examples of how social workers really do have they wield an incredible amount of power, and that power can be used in a way to further like discriminatory like practices against specifically black and brown families. And it has like very drastic and dire effects that I feel like we very rarely talk about. um
Mhm.
I don't know if you remember last summer when the whole protest thing was happening and everybody was like, "Oh yeah, like let's replace the police with social workers."
Yeah.
Me and all the other social workers of color immediately said that is a very awful and horrendous and horrible idea.
You're like, you think the police fucked you up? Wait until we get a hold of
Right.
you.
Wait until Kathy with her power trip come in and try to knock you down, bro. Like it's really not gonna be fun. Cause Kathy seems nicer because she don't got a gun, but she's just as bad, I promise. And
Oh,
this
I
is
love
coming
that.
from a social worker myself. Um, like specifically the way that social workers work in tandem with law enforcement
Mm.
is like what I think is most important to note. Like social work would not really exist in the capacity that it does now without the assistance of law enforcement. There are several times that I have been instructed, and I can't get into too much detail, to call the police on clients. Actually, that happens too often, which is part of, yeah, like one of the main things I
I
hate about my
mean,
job.
I was 7 years old and my social worker called the police, or the social worker told my foster parent to call the police. And at 7 or 8 years old, the first time in the handcuffs in the back of a police car, and I was like, that like it'll always stay with me. It'll always stay with me. And I was like, I've never, and I look back at it, like I've never had a good experience with social workers or police officers, except like now my social worker, now that I know who she is, and I do speak to her. And we've had conversations, and she's even admitted like, hey, I tried my best, and I know that she really did, but it's just like that shit sticks with you. Don't be having little black boys in handcuffs at like 8 years old. Like that will always stick with us.
I am literally mortified hearing that. And I know that's a reality. And it still hits me every single time. I am so sorry that you had to go through that.
Oh,
And
it's so that was just the first time I've been like it literally, and then once that happened, it became normalized where it wasn't like I never got in trouble, but every time I get pulled over, I'm in the back of a police car. Every time the police get called, I'm in handcuffs. It's just like it's I don't know what it is. It's kind of like, you know how when people say like um predators can kind of sense who's already exposed or who's already been preyed on. I feel like police have that same like sixth sense. Like they can already, like, you don't even have to have a criminal record, but they can know. They know, like they can smell it on you. Like, oh, this person has been traumatized by police. Let me get, like they can smell it on your skin and like leave me alone.
I know, I know. Like I just think like people don't know. Like to you and I, like we know the realities of policing and like how dangerous that can be. A lot of them, like other social workers, like, and I'm gonna get we can get into that later, but a lot of them, they are trained to see the police as allies. They are trained to view the police as people who are there to help them. They see them as the good guys in most situations. And I can't even explain it myself, but there are plenty of conservative social workers who go through these programs. There are plenty of conservative social workers who end up in the field, even in the most liberal of cities, and that has dire results for Black and Brown children specifically, because they are the ones who will be targeted. They are the ones who will be aged way beyond their age and treated like adults, even though they are children.
Hmm.
They're the ones who will be like subjected to that type of thing, and not like
People
the other folk.
You know what crazy is? Like people find out I'm only like 29. They're like, "Oh my God, I thought you were like closer to 40." I was like, "No, but I've been treated like I wasn't a damn adult since I was 8 years old. Like I had to respond. I couldn't play. I couldn't make mistakes. I've had to be on my P's and Q's. Otherwise, like I literally could end up dead or in jail since I was 8 years old. So yes, I grew up real fast. I don't like I matured. Yes, I have. I'm not an old soul. No, that's called racial trauma. Okay, that's what that is called.
Trauma. Okay. I
Trauma.
am. I.
So with the
It's beyond.
discrimination, is there a way because social the training? I know you have to go through some schooling, and I'm sure that there's like some yearly training and certifications that you have to stay up to date with and stuff. Um, but like, how does all that work? And then is there a way that we can filter these people out?
So okay, for starters, right? Um, the schools and the trainings that you go through, like trainings is a loose term, okay, because it depends on the position or the job you get into. Specifically, when it comes to school for social work, though, there is a certain degree of like coursework that has to be dedicated to like diversity, racism, oppression, and privilege. We call it drop at my in my program. Like um, there is a certain amount of your education that should be dedicated to learning like how to be culturally competent because that is one of the many like ethics associated with core values associated with social work.
Hmm.
It is sped through. It is sped through. Um, I cannot even begin to tell you some of the nightmare experiences that I've had at NYU, where I went to school to get my master's in social work. And like, I mean, I'm not exaggerating when I say a nightmare, I mean a literal nightmare. From the public campaign that I got, like my school went in against me after I went public because one of my classmates sent me an email saying that they didn't want a black presence in the classroom. From one of multiple class, one of my classmates looking me square in my face and saying, "How can you say that America is based in racism when Barack Obama was president?" Mind you, social work program full of social workers, people who are going to be black and brown communities and like poor neighborhoods, the whole nine. Like these people, like mortified, being told by classmates that are not black that they wish that they could whisper the N word into a black man's ear when they're having sex, being told like by classmates that they have the right to say the N word because for God knows why. Like, I mean, literally, you name it, you name it, and that is part of like why I think that these systems are perpetual too, because the reality is majority of these social work programs are white. The majority of these programs that are white have several roadblocks put up to prevent like social workers who look like me, who come from backgrounds where social
Hmm.
workers are going to be at,
Yep.
like from getting there. And I thank the grace of God for getting me through the program. The reality is the program is not set up for many people of color to get through those programs. Like that's part of
Mm.
the issue there. But don't get me started on the fact that like even the way that these programs, from my knowledge, talk about racism, oppression, and privilege and stuff, it is basically like the most elementary way that they could do it. It is not like specialized. A lot of the knowledge you have to come in with yourself, and you won't get taught much while you're there. Like it is mortifying. No, I'm so serious. It's mortifying, like what is going on in these schools. Like, and I mean mortifying. And it's not, I'm not the only person who has said anything about it. I'm not the only person who is trying to change it. But I'm telling you that these programs are not built to create people who are going to be culturally aware. I don't even want to say competent or sensitive. I mean aware. Like these people come into these neighborhoods that are full chock full of marginalized people with these savior complexes, and they go in and they perpetuate the same violence. They just don't have a gun.
So okay, so I don't understand. I don't know. Maybe it's my ignorance because I don't. First of all, I don't have a master's degree, so to the king. Um, but I did do some schooling, and I took political science, and I took some like social equity class. How did you get there? Like that's why I'm like confused. How did you get to the point where you have graduated with a degree and you're still here, and that was your major? Like that's what I'm. I'm really confused.
So this is another thing. A lot of social workers get into social work solely for the purpose of getting a fast track to therapy. Like it's a whole thing. Like
Okay,
you know,
because
I'm a therapist.
that was my second question. I was like, because you are a licensed therapist as well. Um,
Mm.
I guess in the system, I didn't see the connection between social work and therapy. I didn't see it. Is there a huge connection between
Yeah.
social work and therapy and how they try to use? Because I guess you can say, well, I have lived experience now working in this field, so then I can try to help these kids. I can see that of having to build your experience, but why do you think? Do you think that's a positive thing or a negative thing that they kind of use the social work pipeline to get like use what they got to get what they want, like Players Club, like type status.
So I like to answer that, I gotta go back and clarify. I went to social work school on the macro track. Like I'm a therapist because I was pushed by like mentors and stuff to like apply these skills that I have because clearly I have I can relate more to the people on the other side of these services than
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my peers and colleagues.
Mm-hmm.
But like I went into school with the idea that I wanted to come out and I wanted to be an organizer and work in community. And I knew that I wanted to go back into community. A lot of these other students who came into the programs with me, they go into it wanting to be therapists. They aren't looking forward to working in black and brown communities. They aren't looking forward to like working with like children who are economically challenged. They didn't come there for that. That's not what they came for. They came specifically to become therapists. That's it. A lot of their goals are get into it, collect your hours however you can until you can get your seat, and then have your own private practice. And I'm not shaming anybody for wanting to do that because like it's rough out here. There's no
Wait, you
pay.
can get therapy hours as a social worker?
Yes. So and
How?
this is another thing, right? A lot of people don't
How?
understand. So I'm a therapist. Like I specifically am in like an LMSW. So I get clinical hours. You have to have like I think you have to have like a couple thousand clinical hours in order for you to get your C. That takes years of working under other like licensed social workers. So you have to like go through and honestly, 9 times out of 10, you're going to be working in social work. You're going to be working under like child welfare. You're going to be working in the schools. You're going to be working. There are so many other like areas where you're going to be working in order to get these hours, in order for you to obtain your seat, in order for you to move on and have the agency to have your own agency to
Yeah.
make it. And a lot of people go into it with the sole intention of becoming therapists. They aren't really interested in helping kids, although a lot of them are. I'm not knocking because there are plenty of people who do go into it with those intentions. And because of the way that social work has been built, like from the very inception of social work, like it is not a lucrative or profitable profession to go into. And people get burnt out, people quit halfway through, and they go towards the private sector, which leaves like the kids in these families in these communities with people who are inexperienced, people who are underpaid, burnt out, conservative as fuck, and who will call the police in a split second. That is all like the system is broken, the people are broken, and the culture is just broken. That's just
It's
to put
all
it
broken.
simply.
Well, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about ways that we can bridge the gap and ways that we can fix this broken system, even in our own little ways. So hang on, and we'll be right back. I did not know that. I did not know that you can get hours like that. Like that is double dipping. That sounds like that's double dipping. You should be able to double dip like that. You shouldn't be able to double because how you gonna get hours but you getting paid too? I don't like that. I don't
Well,
like that.
it's like supervision hours, but it's the main point being, right? Like I think it's just really like the way the system is set up is like really broken. Like at the end of the day, if they paid social workers more and incentivize people actually working in these communities and stuff, like in with children, Like there could be some real serious turnaround. And if they paid the fucking parents to like do better, or paid like the people in kinship and stuff, like I think that the system would be a lot better off than what it is now.
Hold that thought so we can have that when we come back from break. All right, y'all, and we're back. Like they said in the ad, please, please, please take a look at all of the podcasts that are produced by Dillard Media. And while you're there, go on our donation link for this show and send us some support. You know, it is a one man show. I produce, I market, I do everything around here. And we're going to need your help to make sure that we can keep sharing these amazing stories. And I also want to start paying my guests because I think that people should be paid for their lived experience. So go on carlosdillard.com, click the donation link, and donate whatever you can, and make sure that you are also subscribed to my Patreon, where you will get exclusive content and video versions of this podcast. So with that being said, what can we do to fix this system? What can we do to bridge the gap?
Oh, where do we begin? Yeah, I think like it's really important to have this part of the conversation. And I'm glad that you put it last because it's not all doom and gloom. But I want to start like on an interpersonal level. I think one thing, and I'm going to challenge every peer of mine, every colleague, every fellow social worker. I'm going to challenge them to be as anti anti-racist, as anti-ableist, as anti-misogynistic, as anti-sexist, anti-patriarchal, anti all of it. I need you to challenge the system as much as you can, um, with as much as you got, because that is where it's going to start. We need to stand up when we're in our supervisions. We need to stand up when we're in our group consults. We need to stand up when it comes to speaking with admin. We need to advocate for our clients fiercely, because I have colleagues that aren't as confrontational. I understand that, but we're gonna have to throw that out the window. We need to advocate for our clients fiercely. Like those people deserve our advocacy, and that is gonna come first and foremost. As far as everybody else, I think one thing that we can do is again participate in the being anti-racist and anti-patriarchal, the whole nine. Get 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 hip to it, because the reality is, like, if we don't challenge these systems, like front facing, if we don't challenge a lot of these, I can't curse on here, can I?
You can. It's an explicit podcast.
Okay, shit. Because if we don't challenge this shit, if we don't challenge this shit, it is going to get out of hand. And I think like so many of us are burnt out because of just the way that these systems are set up. All of this shit is connected, and I don't think a lot of people understand that. In order for you to fight like the fucked up shit that happens inside
Mhm.
of the foster care system, you have to be also tapped in fighting against police brutality. And in order for you to fight against police brutality, you have to be fighting for clean water, like with the indigenous people. Like it's all connected. All of this shit is interwoven,
One thing,
intertwined.
one thing I will say though is know your place when it comes to fighting supremacy, because we all have our strengths and weaknesses. And if
Mhm.
know your strength and go after that strength, and know your weakness, and then work with somebody who has the strength of your weakness. Like, I'm not going to be up there and be like, therapy this, therapy that. I'm not a therapist, I'm not licensed, I'm not this. But you know what I am? I have a strength in foster care and adoption and transracial awareness. So that's my strength, and that's what I hone in on. I think that as individuals, we focus on way too much. But like, we want to change everything, and we want to have all of the strengths and weakness, or we want to have everything that's a strength. Like, no, focus on police brutality, but in your strengths. So when I talk about police brutality, I come from it as a lens of a transracial adoptee or a former foster youth, where that affected my life. And once you know your strength, then it becomes very easy to show the intersectionality that you have, so you can really make it make sense for people, especially when they know your lived experience. So that's what I would add on to what you were saying.
Thank you so much for adding that, because I keep forgetting a lot of people when they hear you need to like fight these systems. A lot of people think the only way you can fight is at the forefront or in the headlines. headlines, and that's not.
No, know your play. Like even like with the 2020 protests, I had to learn because I was out there thinking like I had to be up there. Where people like Carlos, you have like a half. First of all, you're a recognizable face, so police know that you, if once you're out there, that's why they're coming after you because you're a recognizable face. Second of all, you have a 500,000 people who follow you on social media. You don't need to be out here on the forefront. You need to be at home promoting the Venmos, getting people to donate, getting people to
Mutual
go and listen.
aid.
Do what's your strength? And they're like, your strength is social media. Do your strength. You don't need to be out here putting your body on the line. Have these white folks put their body on the line. They ain't got 400,000 people that follow them. You do though, so that's your strength, and I really had to be okay with that because, like you said, I wanted to be like, I want to be on the front line. I don't, no, that wasn't my role. And once I learned my role, I actually felt so good because I was like, I got 500 tents donated. I got sleeping bags donated from somebody in in Ethiopia. They Venmo me like $1,000. So it's like I used my strength to make a change in my community, and I had to realize what my strengths and my weaknesses were.
And even like if your strength is cooking, take your ass down and start you a community kitchen, or join a kitchen or something, join a commune, do something, but do something. It is our jobs to do something. And I think like, yes, petitions are cute and they definitely make their rounds on the internet, but I really want to challenge people to do, even push themselves to figure out other things that they can do. Again, people think like petitions, protests, headlines, or forefront. Like that's not the only way you can like fight this shit.
Mm-mm.
And you can do it in small forms of protest. Like I in my job, like I wish I could like have a recording of my supervision or something. If you hear the way I will stand up for my clients and my supervisions, my job is second, my client is first. That is how it should be. Those are some small ways you can advocate for people. If you, for example, if you're white and you see a black person getting harassed by the police, it is your duty to pull out a goddamn camera and to be like, you're being recorded at the very least.
At the
Like,
very
there are
least.
ways for all of us to step up and to challenge this shit day by day. Like, and again, don't you don't have to start big. I ain't saying you gotta start big, but I'm saying do something. And you'd be surprised how many other people out there want to do something.
Hmm.
Look up your local resources. Tap into your resources, mutual aids, retweet. Like it's so much small stuff that you can do that will really help a lot of people. Like
Well, and
that's
then
the goal.
a lot of people always ask me like, how can I help support for the foster care system? And I'm like, first of all, the best predictor of future behavior is usually past behavior. So when you look at the foster care system, they're like, how can we help the current foster care system? You need to give forefront to us who's already lived it. That way we can actually give advice. Not only are we educating you, we're giving lived experience advice to the people who are already in here, being like, hey, listen, this is what you're about to go through. So like that's literally give us a platform, give us the way, let us speak. Don't gaslight us when we speak. Don't talk over us when we're correcting you. Just let us speak because we really are trying to change the future because it starts with these kids. We barely made it out. And guess what? If we give the current kids in foster care the knowledge and lived experience that we had, like a podcast like this, they're gonna have so much more resources and so many more tools in their tool belt to deal with the things that are gonna come up. So I say like you have to listen to people with the lived experience. You have to put your emotions aside. You just have to listen to us because I don't know, like I feel like that's gonna change the future just by listening
And
because we're the people that can really guide you. What do you think?
I want to add to that. I agree 100%. I think I just want to really emphasize one part of that, and it's like
Yes.
let people with the lived experience speak. I have noticed, and I don't know if you've noticed, but I've noticed like in a lot of instances when it comes to people of certain like experiences or marginalizations, like there are people who are allies, quote unquote, who want to help the people in question, who just wind up platforming themselves and speaking over everyone with the lived experience instead of simply pushing forward, sharing, duetting, like retweeting, like I don't
Well, I
care.
mean, on a personal level, my platform had almost 230,000 people. I know that there are white allies on this platform who were literally calling out racism way worse than I was, calling out supremacy way worse than I was. Were they deplatformed? Yes or no?
State.
I was deplatformed so many times and now permanently. And it's just like, how is it? Y'all, like, you have no experience in any of it. And I'm talking about racism, adoption, foster care. I'm talking about how it intersects all of it. And and then like we're not supported by any ways or means. And these other palm colored platforms get to stay up. And I'm not saying that I don't like their platforms. I appreciate it because I know palm colored people are more likely to listen to other palm colored people, and that's fair.
That's that's part of like the problem though. And I think people profiting off of and benefiting from that is sick. I don't
Yeah,
care.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I'm right there.
they're
I'm
doing
right there. When they deplatformed me, I honestly felt like, not to compare, but I was just like, this is what it felt like at Tulsa, though. Like, I spent 2 years building something. I had made a career. Like, I didn't have, I was making $2,000 a month on TikTok, and you just came through that bitch
I don't
and
know if
burned
I
it
would
the fuck
compare that to
down.
Tulsa.
No, I'm just, I was like, I don't, but like,
You're not gonna get me, but
no, but as a black man, I'm not like the actual like lynching, but like building something that's black and then just having it torn down just because white people don't like it. That comparison, I understand what you're saying. I wouldn't compare it to actually like the lived experience of the people. No,
that's
no.
the unfortunate reality. Like literally, and this is the thing. People are always like, "Oh, the algorithm is so racist. The algorithm is so racist." No, the people
The
are.
rate. Well, here's the thing. I kind of living in Seattle and knowing a lot of people who work in tech. Like, I know a lot of people who build these algorithms. They are racist because they're built by people who not aren't intentionally racist, but they're not anti-racist. So you would literally have to have programmers who are anti-racist, like who actually have learned, like we were saying, who actually did the work and learned about white supremacy and became anti-racist. That way, when they're actually programming an algorithm, they won't mistakenly make it racist because they be mistakenly making these algorithms
I don't
racist as
want to
hell.
let people off the hook though. I do not want to let people off the hook. A lot of people do not engage with content when it comes from black and brown people,
Mhm.
specifically black people though. We're not letting them off the hook that
Well, no, no,
easy.
no. You know what I noticed too, and I said it on my Instagram today. So like the last couple months, like I did the one video with the white man and he was bothering me. That video got like 5 million views. And then I did a video, the Karen video, like a year and a half ago. That video went hyper viral. But when I tell you, when I make videos about like really good content about being black or being in foster care, or my lived experience, 300 views, 400 views.
Talk
And I was
about
like,
it.
y'all just like the trauma porn. Like, you
Get
just like
into it.
the trauma porn. That's all you want.
Let's talk about it because you know something happened with me. Was that earlier this year? I don't know if you remember when Addison Ray was on. Yeah, and I'm name dropping. I don't
Hmm.
like girl. But like
I mean, I was gonna say they gonna take my platform, but they already did it. So
they can come for me next. I got hands. I ain't scared. But no, like she was on Jimmy Fallon, and I had made a video talking about like how disgusted I was seeing white people get away with being mediocre for the umpteenth time, like taking stealing dances from black people and then profiting off of it.
yep.
Which is why again I'm saying like it's not enough for you to just like for white people to benefit from talking about these issues because you're benefiting from the fact that white people will only listen to you. You're
Mm,
profiting off of it. It's unacceptable. But when I talked about it, when I tell you the video went super viral, people were reaching out to me to do articles and stuff. And each time a reporter reached out to me, I would ask them the same question: where are you when I'm talking about mental health? Because that is my actual profession. That is what I actually do, and I
yep.
do pretty good shit. But
Yep.
you are here because I'm talking about a white woman. What does
Yep.
that say about
But
you?
here's the thing, even I've had that same type of experience, and even if they are like, I've had people come to me and be like, "Oh my God, you are." I get suggested by like senators, like, hey, like I've had senators go into my DMs and say, hey, do you mind if we have a lobbyist come and call you? I was like, no, I don't mind if you have a lobbyist come and call me. Here are my standing rates and here's my availability. Oh, you have standing rates? Yes, the fuck I have standing rates. So you think I'm gonna talk to a politician who's gonna have a lobbyist come and gather my information so you guys can go lobby the companies to make whatever you guys are trying to legislate go through and get paid for it? For oh hell no, like you gotta pay people. You gotta, and they don't want to when it comes to blackness, but they'll pay a white person to be like, no lived experience, just wrote a book about foster care, never even been in foster care, never even experienced white supremacy, but then they like $4,000 an hour. I'm like, what? I don't understand.
Literally, it's and that's why, I know it's the kumbaya thing to say, like, oh yay, like, like they only listen to white people, so I get no, I don't get it. And you should be ashamed if you're a white person who is profiting off of, again, because you profit from power that you receive
Mm-hmm.
by having a million followers. You profit off of that. And you get to benefit where we will never be able to reap the same benefits from regurgitating what we say, because none of it is original, mind you.
No.
You're listening to us and you're regurgitating it out on your platform, and
Yep.
then you get to benefit
Oh my
from that.
goodness. I have okay,
Unacceptable.
so now that I have had to restart my platform, I'm at like 9,000 people. Before, when I had white people regurgitate my, like when I say it's my information, like I have this saying like foster care is kind of like Pokemon where they trying to catch them all. I created that. Like I know I created that shit because it's a joke of mine that I created like 3 years ago, and I use it in my talks and on my TikTok. And I saw this white creator who I am a friend with. Like I do have respect for them. They got like 60,000 people and they made a whole video about it. And that video went viral. They did not tag me. They did not let anybody know where they got it from. And I was just like, when I had a bigger platform, I didn't care because I was just like, whatever. Like, but now that I had to restart, I was like, come on. You know where you got that from, and and now you're making money off of it. And oh, I didn't say nothing because I'm not. I'm. I don't know. It's a very sticky situation when it comes to especially in the fall. It's a small industry.
They do that in every facet of life. I did this one thing when I was talking about CPTSD. When I tell you, I talked about it, and every white creator on TikTok had some variation or like watered down version. I was just talking about a book that I liked, and everybody hopped on the wave, and it's cute. Like I get it. It's nothing new under the sun, but like they regurgitate content. It's a thing.
Yep. Yep. So one thing that I always ask my guests before we wrap up the show is if you could go back or say go back and tell yourself or tell a current foster youth and give them a tidbit of advice, what would you say?
Mm. Therapy helped a lot with this one. It's gonna be okay. It is almost impossible when you're in those moments when you are being taken, when you are being removed from your familiar environment. It is jarring, and it feels like, a wound that you will never heal from. And you can spend the rest of your life angry about it.
Mm,
You can spend the rest of your life wanting to fight about it. You can spend the rest of your life trying to run from it. But the reality is that it will be okay. And you're going to be all right. And it's okay for you to go back and for you to love your inner child, even if nobody else did.
I love that. My inner child is so spoiled, bro. Like my inner child gets whatever he wants. Like my inner child, because I was like, I will not say no to you. I'm like, baby, you survived like the worst of the world. You can have it, baby. You can have it.
I'm glad to hear that. I Every time somebody talks about spoiling their inner child, like, you better spoil your inner child. I'd be in here
Hmm.
depressed all day because you know what? I'm gonna have me and mine happy over here. So
Right, right. Well, it's been such a pleasure getting your lived experience and spending this time with you. Like I said, I love your content. Do you want to let the listeners know where they can follow you on social media?
yes, you can follow me at Shaheem with a five instead of an S, Shahem on TikTok and on Instagram and on Twitter. You can get me at Shatired, SHA capitalized TIRED. Shatired.
Y'all definitely go follow him. Like I said, his content is inspiring. It's amazing. Thank you also for coming on and just sharing
Thank
everything
you.
like with kinship care. I think that was really important what you said about your grandfather and your one grandfather having all of these memories and how close you were with your paternal grandfather, but then on your maternal side you didn't even know these people, and then those are the people you ended up having to be with. So I just think that made me relook at kinship care, because before I was just like, bitch, as long as they family, they family. And no, that's not. You can feel like a stranger with your own family, and I think that's important for us all to remember. Not. It's not a monolith. It goes back to what I always say on this damn podcast. Even like it's not a monolith. So kinship care might be great, but it's still not a monolith. It's still not better. It's still not worse. It's every experience is different. So, like I say every week, guys, always be who you are. Always shine your light, because you never know who's looking, and you never know who's going to see that beam, and how you're going to inspire them to be a better person for themselves and for the community at large. So thank y'all for listening, and we will see y'all next week. All righty. Thanks, Shaheem. That was so good. I really liked it. That
Yeah.
I liked it.
I,
That was.
so first off, going back to your platform though, like what in the hell? Like
They took it. The one, remember the lady who called me a nigger and she called my dog a nigger and I was exposing her, the Tambo 69 lady. She also got like three other black people like with large platforms. She got us all taken down. And the only thing I did was just expose her. I did this thing that's called "Is This You?" And I was like, "Is this you?" And I found like where she lived, where she worked, who her husband was, who her kids were, and I just posted all the information. I didn't say it was her. I just said, "Is this you?" And I guess they said that that was harassment and bullying. So, I've been emailing every day for like the last 15 days. Hopefully they may give it back. I've heard they've given platforms back as late as 30 days. But yeah, no, they took that bitch. But then you know what I've also noticed? I started my new platform, and my other platform was more a mixture of foster care and racial injustice and stuff. My new one, which is foster care and adoption, and I have a lot less racist people who come in there. I don't really talk about racism, and I don't have any community guidelines. I haven't had one community guidelines issued to me since I've started that platform. So I think it's real funny how when I completely stopped talking about racial issues, like I talk about it when it comes to adoption, but not about just like racism, because I'm now at the point where if you don't acknowledge racism, I'm not even going to waste my breath with you no more, especially if I'm going to get my platform taken away. So, and they kept my motherfucking money. They owe me $893.
that's probably the only reason why they ain't gonna get that account back. They are broke.
They owe me $893.
I'm not. I don't even use the creator fund because like every time I use it, they like hyper police my content. Like I
Yep.
get a violation. So I just was like, nah, it's
Yeah,
not
I
worth.
already told myself I know I'm gonna get bigger. I'm probably gonna even be bigger than my other account, and it's gonna be less stress and less headache because I'm not having to deal with all the racism. But I'm not going on the creator fund. I'm really just gonna start telling my followers like, y'all white people need to start paying for this. So here's a Patreon, um, here's a GoFundMe, and I'm gonna have a goal of $1,200 every month on the GoFundMe. And if you watch the content, you will go and you will pay $5, $10 a month. I don't care if you, and that's what people say they were, but it's just getting to the point where it's crazy,
Yeah,
and
that's
this
what
social
I'm
media.
about to relaunch my Patreon too.
My Patreon is actually, I would highly start it right now. That way, before anything happens, to because it could be random and they'll take your shit, and then you trying to back up and just get the Patreon now. Start filtering your people to your
I already got the
Patreon.
Patreon. I just gotta reshape it.
Yeah, send
I
me the
haven't been
link.
promoting it.
Also, you get a free copy of my book because you're on the show. So I will send you an email
Yeah,
tomorrow, just to kind of like say thank you and stuff, and then ask you for your address. Because that's the only thing I can offer right now. I've been trying to get sponsors for the
it's
show.
more than enough.
Ooh, that's another thing. My TikTok was paying for this show to produce because I was paying all of it, and I was like, ugh, ooh, ooh. So it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay, it's okay. Like I said, us Black folks, we used to rebuilding shit and making it
I'm
better. So
fingers crossed that you get your platform back because but I try to avoid drama on my main account. Like I just started a spam account because I do not want to smoke. Like getting to 307K was hard, and I'm
that's I
doing
was at 225 and it was very, very hard. But then again, like I'm already at almost like 9,000 and I just started that new platform like a month ago.
it.
So I mean, it's not gonna be as hard as it was, but do I really want I had to look at it. Do I want 225,000 people because half of those people are just there whenever there was racial incidents? Like, or do I want 225,000 people who are actually here for foster care? You
We
know,
want to talk about that. Why y'all only come here when it's about a white person?
it's
Does that make sense to you?
nope, nope.
You really don't like niggers, huh?
They don't like niggas. Oh my goodness. Well, I will email you tomorrow. I'm gonna go have a drink. I am tired. I've been working all day.
Please have a drink for me, child.
I will. I will. I and then yeah, 'cause I'll email you tomorrow, and your episode should be out on the 30th or the 7th.
I'm looking forward to it. Have a wonderful rest of your night.
Oh, you too. You
Always nice
too.
talking to you.
No, it was great talking to you. I'll see you on TikTok.